going, happy people? Good morning, good morning. Well, at least it's morning for me. You could be watching it any time of the day. But I have some very interesting information to share with you. Basically, what had happened after work yesterday, my wife, she sends me a text and says, how do you feel about painting the bathroom this weekend? And I was like, oh, awesome. Which one? And she says, well, I like to do the middle bathroom first. So I'm like, oh, well, that's pretty fantastic, right? I've been wanting to, redo different rooms in the house since we moved in, but you kind of have to be careful because when you go to redo something, you want to make sure you're doing it at the right time, so you're not, let's say you're having a party or something happening or people are coming over or whatever. You don't want to have a room that's all blocked off and covered in plastic and stuff like that. And so first of all, you want to make sure you're doing it at the right time. But secondly, my wife is not the kind of person that likes to focus on things around the house. She's more of a people person. I usually take care of stuff like this around the house, and she deals with all the folks, people, friendships and things like that. I mean, that's just kind of what she does. That's who she is. She's a counselor. So for her, it's people oriented, and she's like, I don't care about the house. I just care about, people coming over to it. So stuff like that, so she never really been one to focus on household things, She said this last night, and I kind of got excited because it's like, oh, cool, something that we can do together. But the interesting part about this scenario is that it is in really bad shape. Now, just so you know, I mean, we always keep our bathroom clean, but the folks who we purchased the house from before were like, oh God, I don't know, it's how do I say this without saying anything negative about somebody? I don't want to, talk. They weren't the most DIY savvy. Maybe they watched some stuff on YouTube or Instagram or TikTok or whatever. And basically what ended up happening was they had the bathroom. It's a smaller bathroom. We don't really have a very large house, but it's a smaller bathroom. They wanted to redo their house, and whoever it was, when it happened, they ended up putting textured wallpaper on the walls of the bathroom. And so it's not just regular wallpaper, but it's textured wallpaper, so it's got a feel to it, And it was probably nice when they put it up, but I'm sure over time it degraded. And so what they decided to do was texture over the textured wallpaper. Now I'm going to see if I can pull up a picture here and show it to you real quick. Basically what the walls look like when we get started on it today. A textured hard coat. Okay, textured hard coat is when you take some sort of substance, like in this particular case, it's drywall tapers mud. If you don't know what that is, you can Google it or whatever, but they took a thick coat of drywall tapers mud and then they spread it on the wall, kind of like frosting on a cake. Once that tapers mud dried on the wall, they painted over it. Now, if you do it correctly, okay, and you have like an artistic flair or something and you're really good at doing it, it tends to give it a bit more of like a European or Italian look, where you have like that stucco look on the wall. I mean, that's fantastic. But to me, it looked like, a 3-year-old was playing with a bunch of Play-Doh. And it had globs on it. It's messed up. I'm going to take you up there and show you what the bathroom looks like, but I'm just giving you a preemptive warning that the walls look horrible. And not only did the hard coat come out very poorly, they also the wallpaper was not applied correctly, so it's peeling off behind the hard coat in certain places. And then when they went to go paint over it, I'm guessing that they probably painted the house before they put it up for sale. This is a couple years back now. When they painted the house, they painted the entire house in the same color. So when we purchased the house, we knew we were going to have to be redoing these rooms, you know, and it's like, oh God, each one of these rooms is going to have to be redone. I understand, you know, for real estate sales purposes, you want to have, you know, your home in a very neutral tone so that it's more appealing to prospective buyers. And for the average person, you know, fantastic. I'm sure it was appealing to the average person. But me, being a, you know, 20 plus year veteran painter, you know, where I've spent a lot of years working on a lot of walls with a lot of coatings, I look at it as just an enormous chore. Because number one, when they put up, whoever put up the wallpaper in the room, when they put that up, did they use sizing? If you don't know what sizing is, if you never put up wallpaper before, sizing is something that you put on the wall to make it a little easier for it to take down. It helps it to stick to the wall and makes it easier to take down at the end. And if you don't put sizing on your wall before you put up wallpaper, it can be much more of a challenge. What kind of adhesive did they use? Did they just use the adhesive that was on some pre-pasted paper, or did they actually go out and purchase professional paste? All those things make a difference in how you're going to remove the wallpaper. So what ended up happening was I assessed the walls because what my wife wants to do, number one, we want to get rid of the textured walls and get it down to the bare drywall. And I don't know what the drywall looks like underneath all that texture and underneath that wallpaper. Is that drywall, the wallboard, is it damaged? Is there a lot of repairs that they had done before they ended up putting up the wallpaper? I have no idea. So I don't know what I'm getting into. I can't see underneath it. So we basically just have to strip that texturing, that hard coat texturing off, and strip off the wallpaper, get down to the bare drywall, and see what we're working with. So my wife is not one to be patient with things. I love her to death. Don't get me wrong. She is the most amazing woman in the world. I love her with all my heart. But she's not the most patient. So when she decides she wants to start on something, she wants to start right now. So as soon as we finished supper last night, we decided, oh, let's just go upstairs and see what we have to work with. Let's, you know, start scraping a little bit and see if we can get this stuff off the wall. Now, of course, I didn't have wallpaper stripper. So, you know, I don't really wallpaper much around the house, and, you know, years and years, I'm sure that stuff goes bad sitting on a shelf. So I don't just keep it handy around the house because I'm not working in trades anymore. So, the first step, obviously, is to get, you know, underneath that paper and start to peel some of it away and see what we're working with. And in order to do that, you've got to get that stuff off the wall. So the process that I came up with in order to get these coatings, the textured hard coat, and then the wallpaper off the wall, is not something typically done even if you're into trades. Okay, this is a more in-depth process, and after doing part of a wall, I would liken it to a very hard, old adhesive that wasn't applied on a wall that was sized correctly, and it might be similar to wallpaper over wallpaper. I've done that a couple times too, where people have just put wallpaper over wallpaper and the adhesive just bleeds in, turns hard like a rock, or, you know, you have like some kind of a thick vinyl that you put on the wall, hard like a rock, and you got to scrape that stuff off and apply a lot of chemicals. Not quite as severe as like the old, I don't know if you guys have ever used Peel Away, Not quite that severe where you have to literally get peel away out to get that stuff off the wall, but it's a hard process. So I'm going to be taking you up there in video with my cell phone because the camera that I use right now is not really good for traveling around the house. But I'm going to take some cell phone videos and show you kind of what the bathroom looks like. Oh, okay, so this is a sample of what I was talking about with the wall. As you can see, there is texture kind of glopped onto the wall here, kind of haphazardly. You can see the drywall joint compound just comes off with no problem whatsoever. Just kind of pick it right off the wall. It's been this way since we moved in. We did not do this. And again, I'm not saying there's anything wrong necessarily with texture in your walls. I just don't think this was done correctly. You can see over here there's areas where it's completely fallen away from our shower curtain. And then up here you can see how they painted the ceiling. See if I can zoom in a little bit for you. You can see this is their cut line on the ceiling. So it really was not a very good job. And in addition to that, you can also see where they had some of that tan go up on the ceiling. And then they tried to cover it with white paint. You can see how it's splitting along the seam. And all of the walls in this bathroom look basically like this. All right, so as you can see, this bathroom is pretty messed up. I'm sure that, whoever did it, maybe that was their style at the time. Again, I'm not trying to diss anybody's personal, likes and dislikes. If you like that, fantastic. I personally do not. And when I saw this, when we were making the agreement to purchase the house, I factored all of this into our purchase of it. I mean, some people don't care about simple things like this, but for me, I know the work that has to go in to correct this. Now, you can hire somebody to do this. I'm sure, you can probably get a company in to remove this textured hard coat, remove the wallpaper. Finishing companies, painting companies, decorating companies can do that, but the process to do so is quite extensive and it's going to cost a lot of money. I never even got a quote because I wouldn't think of hiring somebody to do this when I can do it myself. But the process is going to be complex. And in order to do this, I have to look at it as multiple layers. Okay, as you can see from the video I just showed you, there is quite a few areas that are very badly painted as well. I don't mean to diss DIY home renovators who want to do things themselves and save money. I mean that's fantastic. That's probably why you're watching the video. And if you don't get good advice. Okay, if you don't get good advice on doing any type of renovation, all right, you're prone to making mistakes that could be extremely time consuming to correct or extremely costly to pay someone else to correct them for you. Like in this particular case, as you saw from the video, there was quite a few areas where the paint was just in horrible shape. You'd think that people didn't have a light on when they painted. Maybe they tried to paint in the dark. I don't know how someone could miss some of this stuff. Personally, I mean, the moment I walk into a room, being somebody who has worked in the trades for years, the first thing I do when I walk into a room is I can scope out and identify bad paint jobs. It's like I walk in the room and I'm like, you cut that bad, or that roll was too thin and you got skippers all over it. It's just something that you see when you work in the trades. I'm sure anybody in any kind of profession who is a professional at what they do, they're, hey, I'm a computer programmer and I can pick out all the bugs in this, particular piece of software, or I know how I could have programmed it better, or if you're, somebody who, works in counseling, or like my wife, she's like, well, they use a very bad technique there to help them with their feelings. You just know, because it's like, you're a professional, you're the one who knows, so whatever trade you're in, I'm sure you're a pro at it. But this is my thing. I know what you're supposed to do to put coatings on a wall that are going to look good and be durable. So when I looked at this bathroom, I just shook my head and I says, oh my God, this is going to be a lot of work to get this corrected. I mean, it's not just a bathroom, it's our entire house. If I showed you what this basement looked like, you guys would probably stop watching my show and just be like, oh my God, you've got too much work to do. Stop making videos and do the work. I get that. Not many people are going to live up to my standards, but for me, I want to make sure that if I'm going to redo it, I'm going to redo it right, so that either I can redo it later and it'll be easier to do, or if we end up moving to a different house, the next owner is going to have a much easier job making the bathroom their own. So I'm going to redo it right. And so everybody's going to have their own opinion on how to do things. This is just my opinion. I'm sure there's others out there. If you want to leave a comment down below on how you would have tackled this situation. But being in the industry, like I said, for 20 plus years, I look at, number one, what is the cost of redoing something like this? Number two, what is the time involved? In doing something like this. Now, if I were to hire this out, just looking back at the people that I know who are in the industry, they would come back to me and say, we're just going to cut the drywall out. We're just going to cut all the drywall out, re-drywall the bathroom. There's just too many layers of coating. There's just too much damage. It'll be less time consuming to just replace the drywall and start with fresh, clean board, So I don't want to do that, number one, because you've got a huge mess in removing drywall. It's a messy job. Number two, it's hard on you, and I'm middle-aged now, upper 40s and pushing 50, very close here. And it's not something that I really want to tackle if I don't have to. And also, too, if you do drywall work yourself, and I've done drywall work in the past, you really have to have a skill. You have to have a skill in applying the drywall to the studs, and you have to have skill in taping. Taping, if you don't know what that is, taping is applying mud to the joint compound that skims over the surface where the joints are in the drywall to give it a nice smooth finish. And if you don't do that correctly, okay, you're going to see those joints, the screws or nails or whatever you're using in your jurisdiction for whatever requirements are in your area. For us, it's obviously drywall screw, but if you don't do that correctly, those screws are going to pop, which means you're going to have little holes, divots you're going to see in the paint. If you don't skim over that correctly with joint compound, you're going to see the seams. If you don't tape correctly with a piece of, it's like a piece of paper tape that you put over each seam that hides the seam, so that once you tape correctly, if you do it correctly, you never even know that there's a seam there. So that process is very complex. I never went to school to do that. The painter trade, or in my area at least, is it encompasses painting and drywall finishing, taping, and wall covering such as vinyl and wallpaper. But I never got into the wallboard finishing part, with the taping of drywall and stuff. That's a very specific job. Usually there's a company that specifically comes out and does that before I go in to actually do the painting. I can do, minor repairs here and there. I can use joint compound okay, and of course spackle, things like that to fill in holes, but I am by no means a professional in doing an entire room, finish coating the taping joint compound. So I would leave that up to a professional to do that. Then I'd come in and do the finish work with the paint and so forth, sanding, stuff like that. But I do know that it's a challenging job, and I just don't want to tackle that if I don't have to. And then number three, not only is it going to be an insane mess if I do that, along the lines of refuse, I'd probably have to get myself a dumpster. And because you can't throw that amount of drywall out in your garbage can. It'd take you a month of Sundays just to get that stuff thrown out. If you throw it out piece by piece, you don't think about it, but even a small room like a bathroom, that's a lot of drywall. So I'd have to get myself a dumpster. So you're talking about the cost of new drywall. You're talking about the time involved in ripping the drywall out and then putting in new drywall, taping the drywall, and then disposing of the old drywall. I don't want to go through all that. So I'm going to save these walls if I can. So you've seen what the wall board looks like, and you've seen kind of what I'm contending with the start of the process. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through step by step on how I am going to do this and what I've done so far.